23 missing wolf pups don't vanish without leaving a story behind. Alpha King Damian Blackwood stared down at the fresh tracks pressed into the snow. The prints were small, scattered, overlapping one another as if dozens of young wolves had traveled the same path. Cold mountain air rolled through the pine trees, carrying the scent of frost and cedar. His patrol had spent nearly 2 weeks searching the Northern Territories. Every report led nowhere. Every clue disappeared. Yet somehow, every trail eventually pointed in the same direction, toward a forgotten ridge hidden deep beyond the kingdom's northern forests. Damian crouched beside the tracks and brushed a gloved hand across the snow. The marks were recent, no more than a few hours old. His silver eyes narrowed. Something about this made no sense. These weren't stolen pups. Stolen pups left signs of fear, signs of pursuit, signs of struggle. These tracks looked different. They looked purposeful, as if the young wolves had chosen where they were going. One of his guards approached quietly. "Your Majesty, are we certain this is the right trail?" Damian didn't answer immediately. His gaze remained fixed on the winding path disappearing between towering pines. "Every missing pup crossed this mountain," he finally said. "Every one of them ended here." The guard exchanged uneasy looks with the others. Rumors had already begun spreading throughout the territories. Some claimed a rogue pack was hiding in the mountains. Others whispered about a witch living alone among the cliffs. A few even believed something supernatural was drawing the pups away from their families. Damian trusted none of the stories. Facts mattered. Evidence mattered. Yet standing here, surrounded by silence, he felt an unfamiliar sense of curiosity. The trail continued upward. Snow crunched beneath their boots as they climbed higher. The mountain grew steeper with every mile. Wind swept through the trees, carrying flakes of white through the air like drifting feathers. Then Damian noticed something unexpected. More tracks. Not just one or two. Hundreds. Tiny paw prints covered the hillside. Some fresh. Some old. Some nearly buried. Beneath previous snowfall. His heartbeat slowed. Every instinct sharpened. This was no random gathering place. Whatever existed beyond the ridge had been attracting pups for months. Maybe longer. A few moments later, the forest suddenly opened. Damian stopped walking. So did every guard behind him. Across a small clearing stood a cave carved into the mountainside. Smoke drifted lazily from a narrow opening above it. Warm golden light flickered from somewhere inside. The sight felt strangely peaceful. Too peaceful. The king studied the entrance carefully. No guards. No traps. No signs of a criminal hideout. Just a simple cave tucked beneath ancient stone. Then movement caught his attention. A tiny wolf pup emerged from the entrance. Its silver fur shimmered beneath the afternoon sunlight. The little creature paused, looked around, then disappeared back inside. Another followed. Then another. Damian's breath caught. He counted 6 pups in less than 30 seconds. All healthy. All calm. None appeared frightened. One of the guards whispered, "There are more here than anyone reported." Damian nodded slowly. His attention never left the cave. Something warm drifted from inside. Not heat. Not magic. Something harder to explain. A feeling. Safety. Home. For reasons he couldn't understand, the sight unsettled him more than any threat could have. Missing pups should not look content. They should not willingly gather in one place. Yet every instinct told him those young wolves felt protected here. A faint laugh floated from within the cave. Soft. Gentle. Human. Damian froze. There was someone inside. Someone living among the missing pups. Someone every trail in the kingdom had quietly been leading toward. And for the first time since beginning the search, the Alpha King realized he might not be hunting a villain at all. Most wolves feared what they did not understand. That was exactly why nobody came near the woman who lived inside the mountain cave. Long before Damian Blackwood arrived, stories about her had spread through the nearby packs like winter fog. Some called her cursed. Others claimed she spoke to wild creatures. Children dared each other to approach the ridge, only to run away before reaching it. Nobody seemed interested in learning the truth. Rumors were easier than kindness. Inside the cave, Evelyn Hart knelt beside a small stone hearth while morning light spilled through narrow cracks in the rock walls. The cave was larger than it appeared from outside. Blankets covered the floor. Shelves carved into the stone held dried herbs, wooden bowls, and carefully folded clothing sized for growing pups. The air smelled faintly of pine, fresh bread, and cedar smoke. It felt less like a cave and more like a home built from patience. A tiny gray pup sat near the fire, staring sadly at a torn blanket. Evelyn noticed immediately. She always noticed. Setting aside the basket she carried, she crossed the room and crouched beside him. "What happened?" she asked softly. The pup lowered his ears. "I ripped it." Evelyn picked up the blanket and examined the small tear. "That is all." The pup blinked. "You are not upset?" A smile touched her face. Blankets can be fixed. Relief washed across the little wolf's expression. Within seconds, he was helping her gather thread from a wooden box. Across the room, another pup laughed. Then another joined in. Soon the cave filled with warm voices and playful chatter. To an outsider, it might have looked ordinary. That was what made it extraordinary. Many of the pups had never known ordinary. Some had arrived frightened and silent. Others had expected every mistake to bring disappointment. Yet here they learned something different. They learned what it felt like to belong somewhere. Evelyn moved through the cave, checking on each child. One struggled with reading. Another needed help tying a boot. A younger pup proudly displayed a small wooden carving he had spent 3 days creating. She listened to every story as if it mattered. Because to her, it did. Near the entrance sat a white-furred pup named Lily. Unlike the others, she remained unusually quiet. Evelyn carried 2 cups of warm berry tea toward her and settled beside the child. For a moment, neither spoke. Snow drifted gently outside. Finally, Lily whispered, "Do you think my family misses me?" The question hung in the air. Evelyn felt her heart tighten. There were some wounds that even time healed slowly. She carefully wrapped both hands around her cup. "I think people make mistakes," she said after a pause. "Sometimes very big mistakes." Lily stared at the snow. "Then why did they leave me?" Evelyn looked toward the distant mountains. Questions like that never had simple answers. "I do not know," she admitted gently. "But I do know something else." Lily glanced up. "What?" Evelyn smiled. "You matter. That never changes." The little pup's eyes shimmered with emotion. She leaned closer until her shoulder touched Evelyn's arm. Neither moved away. Outside, hidden beyond the tree line, Damien Blackwood watched through the cave entrance. The Alpha King had expected secrets. He had expected deception, perhaps even danger. Instead, he found a woman comforting a lonely child. The sight left him strangely unsettled. One of his guards stepped closer. "Your Majesty, should we approach?" Damien remained silent. His eyes followed Evelyn as she crossed the room, helping another pup reach a shelf that was too high. The children trusted her completely. Trust like that could not be forced. It had to be earned. "Not yet," Damien finally said. His voice was low, thoughtful. "Something about this is not what it seems." Deep inside the cave, Evelyn suddenly paused. A faint chill brushed across her senses. Someone was nearby, watching. Slowly she lifted her head toward the entrance. Beyond the falling snow, she could not see the king standing among the trees. Yet for reasons she could not explain, she felt that change was already climbing the mountain. Long before the cave became a refuge, it had been silent. Evelyn still remembered the first winter she spent alone there. Snow had buried the mountain trails. Wind slipped through cracks in the stone walls during the night. Most evenings she sat beside a small fire with nothing except the sound of distant pines swaying beneath the cold sky. Back then, she had believed the world wanted nothing from her. In many ways, she thought that was easier. Then everything changed because of one tiny cry. It happened nearly 3 years earlier. Evelyn had been gathering firewood less than half a mile from the cave when she heard it. The sound was weak, barely audible beneath the wind. At first she thought she imagined it. Then she heard it again. She followed the noise through a patch of snow-covered brush until she discovered a tiny wolf pup curled beneath a fallen branch. The little creature could not have been more than a few months old. Its fur was soaked from melting snow. It trembled so hard its entire body shook. Evelyn knelt immediately. "Hey there," she whispered. The pup opened one eye. Fear flashed across its face. Then exhaustion replaced it. Evelyn carefully wrapped the small animal inside her coat and carried it home. She expected the pup to leave once it recovered. It never did. She named him Ash because of the gray markings around his ears. Within weeks, he followed her everywhere. He slept near the hearth, helped her gather sticks, waited by the cave entrance whenever she left. For the first time in years, Evelyn did not feel completely alone. Months passed. Spring arrived. One morning, Ash disappeared into the forest. Evelyn worried all day. Near sunset, he returned. Another pup walked beside him. Smaller, thin, nervous. The newcomer hesitated near the entrance while Ash confidently trotted inside. Evelyn laughed softly. You brought a friend? The second pup stayed. A few weeks later, another arrived. Then another. Some appeared injured by harsh weather. Others looked frightened. A few simply seemed lost. Yet somehow they always found the cave. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Every child who arrived carried the same expression. Uncertainty, loneliness, hope, as though they had traveled for miles chasing a feeling they could not explain. Evelyn never turned any of them away. She expanded sleeping areas, built extra shelves, learned to cook larger meals. Her quiet mountain life slowly transformed into something entirely different. What surprised her most was not the number of pups. It was how quickly they changed once they felt safe. Children who barely spoke began laughing. Those who flinched at every sound started exploring. Some discovered talents they never knew they possessed. One loved carving wood. Another painted beautiful landscapes. A shy little girl named Lily could memorize entire stories after hearing them only once. Every day revealed something new. Every child carried hidden light waiting for someone to notice it. Standing among the trees outside, Damien listened as one of the younger pups excitedly told a story near the fire. The king remained hidden from view. He had intended to observe for only a few minutes. Hours had passed. He still had not left. Nothing about the scene fit the reports he had received. This was not a criminal hiding stolen children. This was not a dangerous rogue gathering followers. It was a family. A strange one perhaps. Unusual. Unexpected. Yet undeniably real. Damien watched Evelyn hand a bowl of warm soup to a sleepy pup who immediately smiled. Such a small gesture. Yet something about it lingered in his thoughts. Nearby, one of his guards shifted uncomfortably. Your Majesty, the man whispered. If these children came willingly, why did nobody report it? Damien's gaze remained fixed on the cave. A quiet feeling settled inside him. Because, he said slowly, someone wanted the kingdom to believe they disappeared. Silence followed. The possibility changed everything. Deep inside the cave, Evelyn stood by the entrance staring into the forest. She could not see Damien among the trees. Yet the strange feeling remained. Someone was searching for answers. And sooner or later, their paths would finally cross. The mountain had not felt this alive in years. Snow continued drifting across the ridge while laughter echoed from inside the cave. One pup chased another around a cluster of blankets. Someone proudly displayed a wooden carving shaped like a wolf. Near the hearth, Lily read aloud from a worn storybook, while younger children listened with wide eyes. It was the kind of ordinary afternoon most families never stopped to appreciate. For Evelyn, it felt precious. Every smile carried a story. Every child represented a second chance. She stood near the entrance sorting dried herbs when Ash suddenly lifted his head. The silver-furred pup had grown considerably over the years. Though still young, he carried himself with quiet confidence. His ears twitched toward the forest. A moment later, several other pups noticed it too. The cheerful atmosphere softened. Not fear. Awareness. Evelyn followed their gaze toward the trees. Something was different today. The mountain seemed to be holding its breath. She stepped outside and wrapped her coat tighter against the cold. Snowflakes settled on her pale hair as she scanned the ridge. Nothing moved. The forest appeared calm. Yet the strange feeling remained. Behind her, Lily emerged from the cave. Is everything okay? She asked softly. Evelyn forced a reassuring smile. I think so. The little girl studied her face carefully. Children noticed more than adults often realized. You are worried. Evelyn hesitated. Maybe a little. Lily slipped her small hand into Evelyn's. You always tell us that being afraid is not the same thing as being weak. A laugh escaped before Evelyn could stop it. I did say that. Then maybe you should listen to your own advice. Evelyn looked down at her. Warmth touched her heart. Somehow these children constantly reminded her of things she needed to hear herself. Deep among the trees, Damien watched the exchange. He had spent the entire day observing from a respectful distance. Every hour made the mystery more confusing. Nothing about Evelyn matched the rumors surrounding her. Villains did not spend afternoons teaching children to read. Dangerous people did not mend torn blankets or celebrate poorly carved wooden animals as if they were priceless treasures. His guards had begun noticing it too. One of them finally stepped closer. Your Majesty, perhaps we should speak with her. Damien remained silent for several seconds. He rarely delayed action, yet something held him back. Instinct, curiosity, maybe caution. Tomorrow, he said at last. I want one more day. The guard looked surprised but nodded. Meanwhile, miles away, events were already moving beyond anyone's control. In a nearby settlement at the base of the mountain, conversations spread through gathering halls and village streets. More families had begun noticing strange details. Children who supposedly vanished had occasionally been spotted from a distance. Healthy, safe, smiling. Questions followed. Questions led to rumors. Rumors led to suspicion. Some people wanted answers. Others wanted someone to blame. By evening, several local pack leaders gathered to discuss the situation. None of them had visited the cave personally. None knew Evelyn. Yet many had strong opinions about her. Fear often grew fastest where understanding was absent. Back on the ridge, darkness settled over the mountains. Lantern light glowed warmly inside the cave. The pups gathered around the hearth while snow tapped gently against the stone walls. Evelyn read from an old book as dozens of young eyes followed every word. For a little while, the outside world felt far away. Safe, distant, forgotten. Then Ash abruptly stood. The movement drew everyone's attention. His gaze fixed on the entrance. Silence spread through the room. One by one, the other pups noticed it too. Footsteps. Faint. Far away. Yet definitely there. Evelyn slowly lowered the book. Her heart skipped once. Someone was climbing the mountain. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. Outside, hidden beyond the darkness, Damien Blackwood heard the same sound. He turned toward the lower trail and frowned. Multiple scents drifted upward through the cold air. None belonged to his guards. Whatever was coming toward the cave, it had arrived before he was ready to reveal himself. The first figure emerged from the darkness just after moonrise. Evelyn stood near the entrance of the cave while the pups gathered quietly behind her. Snow drifted through the cold air, glowing silver beneath the moonlight. The footsteps continued climbing the trail. Slow, deliberate, unfamiliar. Her pulse quickened. Most travelers avoided this mountain. Few ever came this far. Fewer still arrived after sunset. Ash moved beside her, alert but calm. One by one, the younger pups peeked around blankets and stone pillars, curiosity mixing with nervous excitement. Then a voice carried through the night. Evelyn Hart. The sound surprised her. Whoever approached knew her name. A tall man stepped into view at the edge of the clearing. He wore the colors of a nearby pack. Two others followed behind him. None appeared threatening. Yet something about their presence unsettled her. The lead man removed his gloves and offered a polite nod. We would like to speak. Evelyn remained cautious. About what? His gaze drifted toward the cave entrance. About the children. Silence settled across the clearing. Behind Evelyn, several pups instinctively moved closer together. The man noticed. His expression softened slightly. We are not here to cause trouble. Evelyn had heard similar promises before. Then why are you here? The visitor hesitated. People are asking questions. Damien watched everything from the shadows of the forest. His instincts sharpened immediately. He recognized the man. Marcus Holloway, a respected representative from a neighboring territory. Practical, diplomatic, not someone known for reckless decisions. The fact that he had climbed the mountain personally meant concern was spreading faster than expected. Back at the cave, Marcus folded his hands. Stories have been circulating for months. Missing pups, strange sightings, families hearing rumors. Nobody knew what to believe. He looked around at the warm light spilling from the cave. Now some are beginning to understand where those stories came from. Evelyn's expression remained guarded. And what exactly do they think they understand? Marcus glanced toward the children. That someone has been caring for them. The words landed differently than she expected. No accusation. No anger. Just simple truth. For a moment nobody spoke. Snowflakes drifted between them. Finally a small voice broke the silence. Are we in trouble? Lily stepped forward, clutching the edge of her sweater. Marcus immediately shook his head. No, his answer came so quickly it surprised even him. No, sweetheart. You are not in trouble. Several of the pups visibly relaxed. Evelyn noticed it. So did Damien. Marcus exhaled slowly. The problem is not the children. His eyes returned to Evelyn. The problem is that others will come after us. A chill passed through the clearing. Others? Evelyn asked. Pack leaders. Families. Officials. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Some will want explanations. Some will want control. A few will simply want attention. His gaze lingered on the cave. What you built here has become impossible to ignore. Deep inside the forest, Damien understood immediately. The situation was changing. Until now, the mountain had remained hidden behind rumor and uncertainty. That protection was gone. Too many people knew. Too many questions were spreading through the territories. Nearby, one of Damien's guards stepped closer. Your Majesty? Damien never took his eyes off the cave. Prepare the camp, he said quietly. We move tomorrow. The guard frowned. Will you finally reveal yourself? Damien watched Evelyn standing between the visitors and the children she protected. Moonlight reflected softly in her pale eyes. There was courage there, not the loud kind celebrated in songs. Something quieter, stronger, the kind built through years of choosing kindness when nobody was watching. Yes, Damien said at last. Tomorrow, everything changes. Back at the cave, Marcus prepared to leave. Before turning away, he paused. For what it is worth, Miss Hart, not everyone believes the rumors anymore. Evelyn looked surprised. Marcus smiled faintly. Some people are beginning to believe the children instead. As the visitors disappeared into the snowy darkness, the mountain grew quiet once more. Yet nobody truly relaxed. Not Evelyn. Not Damien. Somewhere beyond the ridge, the first pieces of a much larger story had already begun moving into place. Morning arrived beneath a sky of pale silver. Snow still covered the mountain, though sunlight now spilled across the ridge in long golden bands. Inside the cave, the children moved through their usual routines. Some helped prepare breakfast. Others folded blankets or gathered firewood near the entrance. To anyone watching, it looked like an ordinary family beginning an ordinary day. Yet tension lingered beneath the surface. Marcus Holloway's warning had changed everything. Evelyn felt it in the quiet glances shared between the older pups. She heard it in the questions nobody quite asked. The outside world was finally looking toward the mountain. Sooner or later, someone important would arrive. She simply did not know who. By midday, several younger children had wandered into the clearing to build snow figures. Their laughter echoed across the hillside. Evelyn stood nearby with Lily while Ash supervised the younger pups with surprising seriousness. He thinks he is in charge, Lily whispered with a grin. Evelyn laughed softly. Perhaps he is. Before Lily could answer, Ash suddenly froze. Every trace of playfulness disappeared from his face. His attention shifted toward the tree line. One by one, the other pups noticed it too. The clearing grew quiet. Evelyn followed their gaze. At first she saw nothing. Then a figure emerged from the forest. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark winter coat that moved gently in the breeze. Sunlight caught silver eyes that seemed almost unreal against the snow. He walked alone. No guards. No weapons visible. No attempt to appear threatening. Yet his presence filled the clearing instantly. The children instinctively moved closer together. Evelyn's pulse quickened. Somehow she already knew. This was the person she had sensed watching from the forest. The stranger stopped several yards away. For a moment neither spoke. Snow drifted between them. Then he offered a respectful nod. Evelyn Hart. His voice was calm, deep, familiar in a way she could not explain. You know my name? She replied carefully. A faint smile touched his expression. I know many things about this mountain. The answer did not ease her caution. And who are you? Silence lingered for a heartbeat. Then the man removed the silver crest fastened to his coat and held it where everyone could see. Gasps echoed around the clearing. Even the youngest pups recognized the symbol. Evelyn's eyes widened. The royal crest. The mark of the Alpha King. Damien Blackwood lowered his hand. I believe it is time we spoke honestly. Shock rippled through the children. Several exchanged stunned looks. Lily's mouth fell open. Ash looked ready to step in front of Evelyn despite being barely half Damien's height. The sight almost made the king smile. Almost. Evelyn remained still. She had heard stories about Damien Blackwood her entire life. Powerful, intelligent, respected throughout the Northern Territories. None of those stories prepared her for the man standing before her now. There was authority in him, certainly, yet there was also patience, curiosity, something unexpectedly gentle beneath the strength. Damien studied the cave behind her, the blankets, the shelves, the children watching from the entrance. His expression softened. I came searching for missing pups. Evelyn said nothing. I expected to find a mystery, he continued quietly. Instead, I found a home. The words settled over the clearing like falling snow. No accusation. No judgment. Only truth. For the first time since he arrived, Evelyn relaxed slightly. Damien noticed. So did every child nearby. Then something unexpected happened. One of the youngest pups stepped forward. Barely 6 years old. Tiny. Nervous. He looked up at the Alpha King and asked the question everyone else was afraid to voice. Are you going to take us away? Silence followed. Damien looked from the child to Evelyn, then back again. His answer came without hesitation. No, the little pup blinked. Damien crouched slightly, so they stood at eye level. I came to understand why every trail in my kingdom led here. His gaze shifted toward Evelyn. Warmth entered his voice. Now I think I understand. For a few precious moments, peace settled over the mountain. The younger pups returned to their games. Some gathered around Damien with cautious curiosity. Others stayed close to Evelyn, watching the Alpha King as though he were a character from one of their storybooks. Damien answered every question with surprising patience. He listened when they spoke. He remembered their names. Even Ash seemed uncertain what to make of him now. Evelyn stood quietly near the entrance, observing everything. The king she had imagined and the man before her felt like two completely different people. Then the mountain echoed with new voices. Loud, urgent, unmistakable. Every head turned toward the lower trail. Damien's expression changed immediately. The warmth disappeared from his eyes, replaced by sharp focus. Several groups were climbing toward the cave. Dozens of people, pack representatives, elders, local leaders. The news had spread faster than anyone expected. Within minutes, the clearing filled with visitors. Some recognized Damien and immediately bowed. Others barely noticed him. Their attention remained fixed on the children. Whispers spread through the crowd. Shock, confusion, disbelief. One woman covered her mouth after spotting a young pup near the entrance. Tears filled her eyes. A man nearby stared at another child as if seeing a ghost. Yet not every reaction carried relief. Several pack leaders stepped forward with visible frustration. One of them, a broad-shouldered alpha named Victor Crane, spoke first. Your Majesty, these children belong with their packs. Damien said nothing. Victor continued. This situation has gone on long enough. Evelyn felt the atmosphere shift instantly. The pups noticed it too. Several moved closer together. Lily reached for her hand. She squeezed it gently. Belong? A small voice suddenly asked. Everyone turned. The speaker was Ash. The silver-furred pup stood near the front of the group. His expression remained calm, though his eyes carried unusual maturity. If we belonged somewhere, he said quietly, why did we end up here? Silence followed. Victor frowned. That is not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Ash asked. Nobody answered immediately. The question lingered in the cold mountain air. Another child stepped forward. Then another. Damien watched carefully. Something important was happening. For the first time, the children were speaking for themselves. A young girl near the entrance looked toward the crowd. Nobody came looking for me. Her voice trembled slightly. Not until now. Nearby, a boy lowered his gaze. My pack said I was too different. Another child whispered. People always told me to stay out of sight. The clearing grew quieter with every confession. No accusations. No anger. Just honesty. Simple truths spoken by children who had spent years feeling invisible. Evelyn felt emotion rise inside her chest. These were the stories she knew. The stories she heard during sleepless nights beside the fire. The stories hidden behind every frightened smile that arrived at her cave. Across the clearing, many adults could no longer meet the children's eyes. Damien noticed that too. More importantly, he noticed who remained silent. Those who had spoken the loudest upon arrival suddenly had very little to say. Then Lily stepped forward. Her small hand slipped from Evelyn's. She faced the crowd bravely despite her trembling voice. Miss Evelyn never asked where we came from. Tears shimmered in her eyes. She never asked what was wrong with us. The little girl looked back toward Evelyn. She just made room. The words struck the clearing harder than any argument could have. A long silence followed. Snow drifted gently around them. No one moved. No one spoke. Damien's gaze shifted toward Evelyn. Standing among the children, she looked almost overwhelmed by their loyalty. Yet he finally understood something that had puzzled him since arriving. The mountain had never drawn these pups because of magic. It had never been about mystery. They came because someone had offered them the one thing they could not find anywhere else. A place where they were wanted. And judging by the expressions spreading across the gathered crowd, everyone else was beginning to understand it too. The mountain remained silent long after Lily's words faded into the cold air. Nobody seemed eager to break that silence. Snow drifted lazily across the clearing. The children stood together near the cave entrance. Some held hands. Others remained close to Evelyn. For the first time since arriving, the gathered adults were not looking at the pups as missing names on reports or problems to solve. They were seeing them as children. Real children. Damien slowly stepped forward. His presence immediately drew every eye in the clearing. Pack leaders straightened. Elders fell silent. Even the wind seemed quieter somehow. The Alpha King surveyed the crowd before speaking. I spent 2 weeks following trails across my territories. His voice carried easily through the mountain air. Every report told me the same story. Missing pups. Unexplained disappearances. Families searching for answers. He paused briefly. I came here expecting to uncover a mystery. His silver gaze shifted toward the children. Instead, I uncovered something far more important. No one interrupted. Damien looked toward a young boy standing near the front. What is your name? The child blinked nervously. Noah. Noah. Damien repeated. Did anyone force you to come here? The boy immediately shook his head. No, sir. Damien nodded. He turned toward another child. Then another. One by one, he asked the same simple question. Every answer remained the same. Nobody had been forced. Nobody had been trapped. Nobody had been hidden against their will. Slowly, the truth became impossible to ignore. These children had chosen this place because it was the first place where they felt safe. A murmur spread through the crowd. Not argument. Reflection. Realization. Many adults suddenly appeared uncomfortable. Several lowered their eyes. Others exchanged uncertain glances. Nearby, Victor Crane folded his arms. His earlier confidence had disappeared. That still does not explain why so many ended up here, he muttered. Before Damien could answer, an elderly woman stepped forward from the crowd. Her gray hair peeked from beneath a winter hood. She looked toward the children with sadness in her eyes. Perhaps it does. Everyone turned toward her. The woman drew a slow breath. For years we have measured young wolves by what they could offer. Her voice remained calm but firm. Strength, talent, status, potential. She glanced toward Evelyn. Maybe we forgot to ask what they needed. Silence followed. No one argued. The words landed too close to the truth. Lily smiled faintly. Ash looked strangely proud. Nearby, one young pup wiped away tears without realizing it. Damien observed everything carefully. This was no longer about a missing children investigation. Something much larger was unfolding. The mountain had become a mirror. Everyone present was being forced to examine what they saw reflected back. Evelyn stood quietly throughout it all. She never sought attention, never asked for recognition. Yet somehow she had become the center of a conversation that stretched across the entire kingdom. The realization felt overwhelming. She looked toward the children gathered around her. Every face carried a memory. Every smile represented years of patience. She had never planned any of this. She simply could not ignore a child who needed kindness. Suddenly, a familiar voice spoke from behind the crowd. Your Majesty. Marcus Holloway stepped forward carrying a leather satchel. His expression looked unusually serious. Damien raised an eyebrow. What is it? Marcus opened the satchel and removed several documents. I spent the morning reviewing old reports. He handed them over. Damien scanned the pages. His expression changed instantly. The crowd noticed. So did Evelyn. What is it? She asked quietly. Damien looked up slowly. Many of these children were never officially reported missing. Confusion rippled through the clearing. Marcus nodded. Some reports were incomplete. Others were quietly closed. His jaw tightened. A few were never filed at all. Shock spread across the gathered adults. The implication was impossible to miss. Some children had simply disappeared from the system because nobody followed up. Nobody asked enough questions. Nobody cared enough to continue searching. Damien closed the documents carefully. His gaze swept across the crowd. The disappointment in his eyes spoke louder than any speech. Then he looked toward Evelyn once more. Standing among the children, surrounded by those she had protected, she appeared stronger than ever. In that moment, the Alpha King understood something with complete certainty. The kingdom had not rescued these children. She had. The mountain remained quiet long after Damien's words faded away. Nobody rushed to speak. Nobody argued. The truth had settled over the clearing like fresh snow, impossible to ignore and equally impossible to sweep aside. The children stood together near the cave entrance, no longer shrinking from attention. For the first time, many of them looked proud. Not because they had won anything. Not because they had proven anyone wrong. They were proud because they finally felt seen. Damien stepped forward once more. The gathered crowd instinctively parted for him. His silver eyes moved across every face before settling on Evelyn. "You built this alone?" he asked quietly. Evelyn glanced toward the cave, toward the shelves she had carved by hand, the blankets she had repaired countless times, the little family that had slowly grown around her. A faint smile touched her lips. Not alone. She looked at the children. They helped. Soft laughter spread through the clearing. Even Damien smiled. Then his expression grew serious again. Evelyn Hart. The use of her full name immediately captured everyone's attention. For years, these children were overlooked by systems that should have protected them. Reports were ignored. Concerns were dismissed. Opportunities were missed. His voice remained calm, though disappointment lingered beneath every word. Yet while others debated responsibility, you accepted it. The crowd listened in complete silence. Damien continued. You gave shelter without asking for status. You gave kindness without expecting recognition. Most importantly, you gave these children something every young wolf deserves. He paused. A home. Several eyes filled with tears. Evelyn lowered her gaze, clearly uncomfortable with so much attention. Recognition had never been her goal. She had simply done what felt right. That was precisely why the moment mattered. Damien turned toward the assembled leaders. As Alpha King, I have the authority to establish protected territories throughout the northern regions. Curious murmurs spread through the crowd. Marcus Holloway looked intrigued. Victor Crane appeared completely stunned. Damien's next words changed everything. Effective immediately, this mountain and the surrounding valley will become an officially recognized sanctuary. Gasps echoed across the clearing. The children stared in disbelief. Evelyn blinked several times as though she had misheard him. Damien was not finished. No child seeking safety will be turned away. Hope spread across dozens of faces. Resources will be provided. Teachers will be assigned. Healers will visit regularly. The sanctuary will remain independent from pack politics. Excitement rippled through the crowd. Then Damien looked directly at Evelyn. And it will require a leader. The clearing became perfectly still. Everyone already knew what was coming. Evelyn Hart, he said gently. If you are willing, I would like you to oversee this sanctuary. For several seconds, she simply stared at him. Shock, gratitude, uncertainty. Every emotion crossed her face at once. Me, she whispered. Damien nodded. Who else? A laugh escaped from somewhere among the children. Then another followed. Moments later, the entire group erupted with excitement. Lily nearly bounced in place. Ash looked as though he had expected this outcome all along. Several younger pups wrapped their arms around Evelyn before she could respond. Overwhelmed, she laughed through unexpected tears. Damien watched quietly. Something warm settled in his chest. The feeling surprised him. He had traveled to the mountains searching for answers. Instead, he had found someone extraordinary. Their eyes met briefly across the clearing. Neither looked away immediately. No dramatic declaration followed. No grand speech. Just a moment of understanding. Respect recognized respect. Trust recognized trust. Sometimes the strongest connections began that way. As afternoon sunlight painted the snow with gold, the atmosphere transformed completely. Conversations returned. Smiles appeared. Plans for the future replaced fears about the past. The mountain no longer felt isolated. It felt alive. Before leaving, Damien glanced back one final time. The children were gathered around Evelyn near the cave entrance. Laughing, talking, planning. Home. That single word echoed through his thoughts. For years the kingdom had called him their king. Yet standing there beneath the winter sky, he realized something important. The forgotten pups had already chosen their queen. And for the first time in a very long time, the future felt brighter than the past.